So the House of Representatives, like I said, is made up of a bunch of representatives who each represent their own individual district. And each state is split into a certain amount of districts based on the population of that state. For example, Washington has 10 districts. As you can see as well, the districts vary in geographic size based on the population. So a city is going to have really small geographic zones, but they have the same amount of people in them. For example, you can see here, Seattle is split into two districts, and there's the same amount of people in the 7th district as there are in the 4th district that covers a huge patch of eastern Washington with way less people. Seattle is split into two districts in such a way that you all in West Seattle are in the 7th district, where your representative is Pramila Jayapal. But over here on Beacon Hill, where I am, I'm actually in the 9th district. The split is kind of in SoDo. And so my representative is a guy named Adam Smith. So the geographic boundaries can be changed. And these boundaries, as we'll learn later, are drawn by the government of that state. So Washington could have chosen to just split it into 10 even slices right down laterally if they could show that each district had about the same amount of people in it. But they chose to do it this way so that they could keep relative interests together. They thought, okay, most people here in the 4th district are farmers and people live in rural areas. They're going to have similar interests. Let's put them all into one district where they can elect somebody who will represent their district's interests. And those interests will be different than, say, people that live in Seattle in a city. So we can make that its own district as well. And this way, people will get a little bit better representation in theory. These people are elected directly. So if you live in the 7th district, you vote who you want to be your representative. You don't get to vote for people in the 4th district, and so on. The Senate is a little different. So when the Senate was designed by the founding fathers in the Constitution, they were worried about what the, quote, common people would do electing their representatives directly. So this was kind of a compromise. They said, we'll make the House of Representatives directly elected by the people, right? But come on, these common dummies aren't going to be able to elect the right people. So we, as smart, rich, landowning white guys, we need some way to kind of temper that power. So they created the Senate, and they said that the legislature of each state, so the state government in each state, would get to just appoint who their senators were. So theoretically, well-educated, rich white guys. And the Senate would have equal power to the House of Representatives. Now, people realized that wasn't wasn't super democratic. So in 1912, the 17th Amendment was passed that made it so that each state elected senators directly. So you got to elect your representative in your district, and then the whole state would decide on their 2 senators. However, the Senate is still disproportionately powerful because each state gets 2 senators. But does each state have the same amount of people? Not at all. In fact, it's been pointed out nowadays, it's more unequal than it ever has been. So the classic example is that all of these states, each one of these states gets 2 senators, which comes to, I think, about 44 senators that represent 38.8 million people. Now, there are 38 million people in California alone, but California just gets 2 senators, the same as everyone else. So rural areas are vastly disproportionately represented in the Senate. And you see that illustrated again here. So about half of the Senate, 50 senators, or directly 50, and this graphic was made before the last election, so it's a little off now, but still roughly half the senators represent about 16.2% of the population, leaving the other half of the Senate, other 50 senators, to represent 83.8% of the population. Again, this was before the last election, so it should be, well, it's probably about the same now. It's not much changed. And how do people who live in rural areas tend to vote? Well, they tend to vote more conservative. So this tends to very much help the Republican Party as of now.